You're back at the Amplified Action Podcast. My name is Jake. I'm hanging out with Andre again, and today we are breaking down practical positivity. So, positivity is a very loaded word. Some of us, it depends on where you fall on the spectrum. Some of them love positivity, some of us find it extremely cringy. But I think we can all agree that if we get very practical about it, it's going to work out well for everybody. So we translated this into three specific mindsets that you can adopt to make positivity work for you in a very reasonable, down to earth way. Before we dive into those, Andre, do you have any thoughts to kick us off here?
Well, the first thing is I really like the alliteration, practical positivity. Love it. It's something where I wouldn't feel embarrassed giving an elevator speech about it. Right. So we got the alliteration going. There it is kind of funny that people have this negative view of positivity, like somehow having a positive mindset makes you naive. It's not really not being naive. It's choosing to shift your perspective to, actually make it through life and see things in different ways. And seeing things in different ways is, especially when you're fighting against your negative bias, is super valuable. So I just don't understand why being positive is automatically labeled as naive or in some cases stupid. So like I like this. I'm gonna enjoy this episode because fighting back against the cynicism and negativity that's just present everywhere, super helpful.
I I I'm 100% in the same boat, and I can relate to those people because for most of my life, maybe not most of my life, but at least half of my life, I would probably consider myself a proud nihilist. I was a punk rock kid. I had a mohawk. You know what I mean? I had the fu attitude to anybody who came towards me, and it wasn't even necessarily like negativity, but it certainly was not positive. It was like complete nihilism where like nothing matters, right? And definitely I think positivity, yeah, like that was my mindset, is like you're not seeing reality clearly if you're looking at if you're looking at it in a positive way, because everything can be, but that's where it comes down to. Everything can be positive or everything can be negative. It just depends on the way you look at it. And there really is, at least I'm not going to be able to get down to what the actual truth of the matter is, but I do know that if you take a positive viewpoint on it, it's going to benefit you more than if you take a negative viewpoint on it. So why not just take a positive viewpoint? And that's really what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, there's so much to be said about positivity increasing your ceiling of possibilities. Like if you feel like not also I think it's hilarious that you had a mohawk and I really want to see a picture of that at some
I
point.
have pictures. I was in a punk rock band. I was the lead singer of a punk
Oh
rock
my
band.
god. Wait, you could sing too?
I could scream. I definitely cannot
You could
sing.
scream? Okay.
Yeah, I have some old recordings I could drag up.
Please, please. Anyway, there's a really thin line between like realism and nihilism and whatever and negativity. And I really think that it cheats down towards negativity. And it's not actually, when someone says they're a realist, what they're really saying is they're a pessimist most of the time. When someone's being cynical, what they're really saying is they're a pessimist. And pessimists don't live as long. Their lived experience is different and worse than people who can find frames that promote positivity, right? So like the doing the exercises that make you cheat towards positivity, it'll just make it so you can see opportunities. It'll make it so that you can do things that are closer to optimal. And the reason I say closer to optimal is because when you're doing all these positivity practices, what it's doing is actually making you see the world closer to what it is. Because we have that innate negative bias that changes it to like a 10 to 1. So practicing positivity actually makes you more of a realist, which is something that the hustle bros would slap you upside the head like, oh yeah, I'm doing all these positivity practices and it's making me see the world as it is, and they're just like it's but that's not, it's really, it brings you closer to seeing the world as it is. So I would definitely take notes on how you can shift some of your thinking in these three different things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and so high leverage when you so yeah, you're counteracting that negative bias, and then you're also creating through attentional bias, just what you're paying attention to, and your confirmation bias. You're just making your biases kind of work towards you. So you're going to see more opportunities. You're going to have higher confidence levels going into opportunities, so you're more likely to succeed. It's really like foundational skills and mindsets, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's go through the first one. The first one we have written down is everything has a purpose. Now, I'm not saying there's no randomness, because there's plenty of randomness, but it's how we interpret the randomness and adjust how we think about the events that have happened. That's really the money, as how you make it into a positive thing. You're not being like, okay, there's I don't, if you believe in destiny, if you believe in, a religion or whatever, it's just meant to be. Yeah, you can view it that way, and it's totally a frame I am willing to accept as a positive frame. Even if I'm not religious and you are, and we both end up making the right shift to make our lives better, who am I to judge which way? You're ending up in the same place. So it's just really like, have faith, but it doesn't have to be in a deity. It could be, faith in like yourself, faith in, your ability to navigate life. Like, this event happened, I didn't like it or I liked it. What can I do from it? Is kind of the same place that people who have religious faith land.
Yeah, this one is one thing too that so going back to my punk rock youth, being a nihilist, being like a hardcore atheist, um, this idea would have resonated with me. That everything has a purpose. In fact, I would be like nihilism is the opposite. It's everything is random and chaos and nothing means anything. But the where I've come in my own life to be able to embrace this mindset without necessarily hanging it on like on religion or some higher power, although I'm not ruling that out. Like I've accepted that that is a possibility. Um, and that's what it comes down to is like I don't know. Like you can say you don't believe, but I don't know. I can't even prove that I'm not dreaming right now, right? Like I can't prove any of this. So why not? So I can suspend disbelief, or I wouldn't even say suspend disbelief or belief, but just accept that I don't know, and then take the line of, well, what is most beneficial to my goals? And having that mindset, everything has a purpose, whether it's true or not, is the right approach. And I can just stop right there and just accept that. I don't know the truth. This is the best path. I'll take it.
If more people were willing to say they don't know and just look at what can be, it would be a lot easier to navigate through life. It's when you have a lot of must have, must do, that things get murky and your lived experience kind of gets a little bit harder. And whether or not things are happening randomly, how we interpret that randomness is ultimately what we're looking for. Like, okay, that really terrible thing happened. At the very least, if you bounce back from it, you've built up your adaptability and resilience. Nothing wrong with that outcome, right? So, do you have any like closing thoughts on that everything has a purpose? I really think that if we assume everything has a purpose and it's leading towards a positive end goal, we have a better path to navigate through. And that's for me, that's what everything has a purpose really does for us. It helps us to navigate instead of getting stuck, and it helps us to not get stuck on external blame. That's the biggest thing, is if we don't get stuck on external blame, it gets way easier to like just not get stuck, right?
Yeah.
Not get stuck in like a terrible situation for yourself mentally. Like, people who get stuck there, because they're just like, this random thing happened and it messed everything up. They're not they're stalled, and you don't want to stall. You want to keep building towards a positive future, and believing that there's a purpose behind everything that's generally positive gets you closer to it.
Absolutely, yeah. My only closing thought on that, I think, is just like a segue into the next one because it really is the difference between having a victim mindset and not having a victim mindset. And the second point we have here is that failure is part of the process. And this directly connects with everything has a purpose, right? Something goes wrong. Where's the value? Well, the value is that I can now learn from this experience. Everything good happens through failure. You can't go around failure. There's no shortcut to bypass failure. I mean, there is sometimes here and there, but like overall, you're going to fail. And often that's the quickest way to get there is to just go through failure and learn from it rather than trying to skirt around it.
Yeah, nothing makes you look at things more analytically than failing at something. Really, like there's so I have a pro poker background, so we're gonna call out to a topic that's relevant to there. So in poker, there are two types of tilt where you have emotions that change the way you play. The first one is the negative tilt, where something random and negative happens, like you lost when you had a 95% edge on something, a 95% probability of winning. And then there's positive tilt, where you're winning and you stop analyzing and paying attention and making high quality decisions. That applies to life. Like we need to be able to always look at whatever situation we're facing and try to make um, positive decision making. And the easiest way to avoid tilt is to just constantly be looking at everything that happens as part of the process of personal growth.
Yep. Everything happens for a reason, right? It goes circles right back around to the first one. You're gonna fail, but that failure happened for a reason, and that's so that you can grow and get better. It's these things all work together for sure.
Yeah. So what let's talk about some of the ways that we can make failure into a positive part of the process. We talk about growth through failures, right? When we run into obstacles and we overcome them, that's great. It makes us think. It makes us build skills. It makes us learn. Um, so the other part is building resilience. So like you can end up learning and building skills. That's what everyone talks about. That's mostly what everyone points at. Then there's building toughness and resilience, which depending on the person, some people are just born with crazy resilience. I was not one of those people. I had to make that very intentional, and it's something that I pay attention to very closely because my kid has my soul a little bit. So like figuring out how to build the resilience and toughness is more important than the fail to learn part of things. It just kind of just depends on your default makeup, I guess. So focusing on one or the other for you, it might change based on who you are, but you're always going to be building a mental attribute or a skill attribute if you do this failure as part of the process thing right. And something that probably is a strength of mine is this third one where we innovate if we fail. Like we go and we create a new system. We look at things in a different way. We problem solve from another angle, and that's another thing that is super valuable from reframing your failures.
Failure is data. Yeah. And data is needed for improvement. It's just a data point. And the real risk is when we start associating failure with identity. In fact, we did a whole episode on this that's out that you can go listen to. But you need to avoid seeing the failure as that I am a failure and instead that I failed or something didn't go as I intended it to, but you know what?
Partial successes.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, yeah, and everything happens for a reason, right? It's a learning opportunity.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that processing failure the right way is super important. Another thing that we need to do is we need to be aware of the positive upsides of all of the different things that we do, um, which is abundance. Like there's more than enough to go around if we go out and we take it. So the world is abundant. There's enough for all of us if we actually have our eyes open. And part of the first two was the first two with the everything has a purpose and failure is part of the process. Those things kind of shut down your ability to see the world as abundant. And the more we see the world as abundant, the more we can identify opportunities. So that's another super important shift that we can make to become realistically positive.
Absolutely. Having a mindset of abundance is a huge, huge game changer because it shifts us from playing like negative sum games where we're competing against people, meaning I win, you lose, I win, and to playing more positive sum games where it's win-win games. And that is how those are the best games to play because that's how you form allies, that's how you go further together. It doesn't mean you have to like join a team or like have a partner, but just seeing the world that way, that everybody is sort of building off of each other. You know, if somebody else succeeds or somebody else has a really good idea, that's just inspiration for you to take your ideas further. It's not that they stole your idea or whatever it may be. In my life, I think that has been a huge, huge game changer because it once again, it goes, this is like a common theme for all these two is like the victim mindset, right? Like you're not a victim. Nobody attacked you. Nobody made you lose. Everything, these are all connecting together. Everything happens for a reason, right? Like it comes back to that one.
Yeah, for sure. The world is so big that you can find positive sum games. Even like more practically speaking, like if you have a significant other or maybe just a friend, right? And one person wants to do one thing, one person wants to do the other, and let's just say one likes, one dislikes activity A, one likes, the other dislikes activity B. That's negative sum. Why don't you guys just go look for activity C, which you both enjoy at some level? Like it's just like there's practical ways. Like there's 1,000 different activities you could do with any other person. Pick one that builds both of your enjoyment. Um, enter positive sum businesses where like it's multiplicative instead of uh, competing. Like I actually think that content creation is one of the few places where uh, you could get positive sum games easily. So I like the like this podcast. We got two people. We have this being a part of like our footprint on the internet, and we both get something out of it. And there's room for that all over the place if you actually like keep your eyes open and look. And with so many games out there, you could pick ones that are positive sum. You just need to keep looking until you find them and then you play them. It's actually pretty simple.
Right. And like the podcast, like this podcast is the perfect example, right? Like we both have a share in this and we have benefits for it. We treat the audience as having a share in it, right? Like our goal is not to waste people's time, but to give valuable information. So hopefully it's a win for all the listeners too. It's like win 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 all around. And you know what? If you don't like it, you can always flip it off too. That's cool too. So there's no loss, right? Like we're all it's a fair game, and it only comes with the intention that everybody can win, right? And then we can add to the abundance of the world versus mooch off of it and siphon good things from the world, right? Like it's about cooperation and putting things out there. Because there is enough. It's not a competition. It really isn't. I mean, yes, there are competitions. There's games that are competitions, but like those are those are dumb games. Generally, they're dumb games. They can be fun. You know, dodgeball is fun. I like dodgeball. You know what I mean? But like in life, it's not dodgeball.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a great way to like wrap it up. So everything has a purpose, guys. Failure is not something to be concerned about. Just view it as a part of the process. And the world is abundant. Find some positive sum games. I promise you, they're out there. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed recording it. So we will see you in the next episode. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, everyone.